Welcome back to page 121. Today we're going to go to the monster manual. We're going to look at one of my absolute all-time favorite, hands down great monster, the orc. The lowly orc? Yes, he's one of my favorites. Orcs are just fun. They're nasty, they're evil, except when they're not. They're just fun. So I'm going to go over the stats a little bit on the orc, a little bit of the write-up, discuss half-orcs a little bit, and then ways I've used orcs in my campaign. So orcs are common, 30 to 300 appearing, AC 6, 9-inch move, 1 hit dice, 1 attack, it's 1 to 8 or by weapon, and they are standard magic resistance, average to low intelligence, and they are lawful evil. A lot of people forget that about orcs. A lot of my players forgot that about orcs. They assume the orcs were chaotic evil. They're not. Orc tribes are fiercely competitive, and when they meet, it is 75% likely that they will fight each other unless a strong leader, such as a wizard, evil priest, evil lord, etc., with sufficient force behind him is on hand to control them. Being bullies, the stronger will always intimidate and dominate the weaker. If goblins are near, for example, the orcs are strong enough they will happily bully them. Orcs dwell in places where sunlight is dim or non-existent, for they hate the light. In full daylight, they must deduct 1 from their dice rolls to hit opponents, but they see well even in total darkness due to infravision. Known orc tribes include the following: orcs of the vile rune, bloody head, death moon, broken bone, evil eye, leprous hand, rotting eye, dripping blade. If orcs from one of these tribes encountered in an area, it's likely that all other orcs nearby will be from that same tribe. And then we go into, if more than 30 orcs are encountered, there will be a leader who will have 3 assistants, and then for every 150, etc., etc. And it says orcs will be underground 75% of the time, and then it gives a breakdown of their weaponry. All this was good information back in the day because we didn't know a ton about how to put these creatures in dungeons and have them, what they did and how they did it. It goes further on to talk about leaders will always have 2 weapons. Orcs are cruel and hate living things in general, but they particularly hate elves and will always attack them in preference to other creatures. They take slaves for work, food, and entertainment, but not elves, whom they kill immediately. Orcs are accomplished tunnelers and miners. They note new or unusual construction 35% of the time. Majority of orcs speak goblin, hobgoblin, and ogre, in addition to the languages of orc and lawful evil. I don't use alignment tongues. They appear particularly disgusting because of their coloration, brown or brownish green with a bluish sheen. Highlights their pinkish snouts and ears. Their bristly hair is dark brown or black, sometimes with tan patches. Even their armor tends to be unattractive, dirty and often a bit rusty. They favor unpleasant colors in general. Their garments are tribal colors, as are shield devices or trim. Typical colors are blood red, rust red, mustard yellow, yellow green, moss green, greenish purple, and blackish brown. They live for about 40 years. And then we get to half-orcs, which get a brief mention here, and of course they are a player character race in the player's handbook. As orcs will breed with anything, there are any number of unsavory Mongols with orcish blood, particularly orc goblins, orc hobgoblins, and orc humans. Orcs cannot crossbreed with elves. Half-orcs tend to favor the orcish strain heavily, so such sorts are basically orcs, although they can sometimes, 10% chance, pass themselves off as true creatures of either stock. So either half-orc, half-human, they could appear to be human or half-orc. When I have a player character who wants to play a half-orc, I make him decide. He doesn't have to roll it. He decides which side he favors more. Does he favor the orcish side or the human side? And then we go from there. I've only ever played one half-orc character. He was Horus, the half-orcus. Horus the half-orc, and he was a cleric assassin. And I did pretty well with Horus. I played him in the 80s. Not for a real long time, but enough. I got him up to around, I think the assassin, he can go to, I'd have to look it up, but 4th or 5th. And then we didn't hold that. We let him continue up. I think I was 6/6 by the last time I last played Horus. He was not really a notable character, which is why I really stopped playing him. There was just nothing interesting about him, in my opinion. And that had a lot to do with the campaign he was in, fell apart, and I just didn't feel like matriculating him into something else. So let's go take a look at orcs. Orcs are lawful evil. They are -1 when fighting in sunlight. No, we don't go by that. I took that rule out because I like my orcs to be omnipresent, just like humans. They're the main human rival for ecological niches, so it made sense to me that they'd be able to fight in daylight. Because of legal considerations, Uruk-hai could never be in AD&D because those belong to Tolkien Estate, and AD&D was having trouble enough with the Tolkien Estate in the late 70s, early 80s, so we don't get any Uruk-hai officially in the rules. That didn't stop us. My campaigns have always had Uruk-hai. They're just fun. They're multi-hit dice orcs, and that let me bring orcs up to 8th, 10th, 12th dice, so I can continue to have orcs in higher level campaigns, which I've done. My main lament with weapon specialization was that it really kind of made orcs kind of obsolete, because you're a fighter without even a great strength. If he only has 17 strength, but he has +3/+3 due to his specialization, he's +4 attack, +4 damage, throwing a die 8 of damage with a longsword. That particular fighter is pretty much going to kill an orc a swing, and he's going to get 1 swing the first round and 2 swings the second at 3-2 attacks. That was disappointing for me. I love orcs, and to lose them to weapon specialization was sad, but then I just kind of brought them back as higher hit dice orcs, Uruk-hai, and we've used them as, we often just call them orcs. We don't even use the term Uruk-hai very often. They're just higher level orcs. Interesting side story, I put a pair of orcs in a bar in a game. It was a rustic kind of setting, and the players went into the bar, and one of my players noted the 2 orcs sitting there, and I want to say this player was a chaotic good fighter. I think he was just a fighter. And the orcs were sitting there, and they were being served by the waitress, and they were minding their own business and being good patrons. My player, for whatever reason, decided that they were orcs, therefore they were evil, and they had to die. So he attacked them unprovoked. Just because they were orcs, he attacked them and slew them. Well, found out later, as the town was rallying around him, debating whether they were going to kill him or not, we found out that the orcs were favored by this town because the orcs had done so many services for the people in the town. They had found a lost child a year earlier. They had hunted and gifted food to people who were down on their luck. They were just generally all around good creatures. It's just how they were. So this guy had to pay mammoth reparations to the town, and then he got to meet the family of the orcs, and he had to pay reparations to them. And I made him atone because I felt that just attacking them because they were orcs was out of his alignment. Now, I have my orcs be aggressive, and generally when my players see orcs, it does immediately become a fight. But it did kind of show, at least that one player, don't judge by its cover. And there was a reason they were sitting in a bar being served by a human waitress and having no problems. And that reason was they were liked in the town. So just a little fun thing I threw in my player's path. He was about 2 or 3 games getting back from that, between the reparations I made him pay and then the quest he had to go on to keep his alignment as chaotic good. I had a lot of fun with that, and I think my player enjoyed it too. But that's all I've got to say today about orcs, one of my favorite monsters in all of AD&D. I want to thank you for your time. Thanks for watching. Please like the video if you could, and subscribe. And I'll see you next time on page 121.